Hi guys, it's Melissa from Special Ed Law Mom. Today I'm going to talk about disputes and how to determine if you should pursue a dispute with a school system or not. So if you want to know more, stay tuned. Okay, so I've done a video series, it's a 3-part series on all of the dispute resolution options under IDEA that you can pursue. And if you've not watched that, I would suggest that you do, because there's different options at different levels of severity that you can pursue if you don't agree with the school system or you have a problem with what they're doing. But sometimes it doesn't benefit you to pursue things. And I know that's going to sound really strange, but you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So let me give you a couple of examples. So my oldest daughter was transitioning from kindergarten to first grade, and we had an IEP meeting, and she was struggling. The classroom was noisy. She had a lot of sensory issues. She would cover her ears. She would cry. And so in this IEP meeting, they told us not to expect much, that she would only be mainstreamed 20 minutes a day, and really, that was the best that was going to happen with her. Why would you tell someone that? But they did. But there's a side story to that. We had been trying to address the ear issues, and we had asked them to help us with that, and they had been using a computer program to try to do that. And we were not seeing any results with that. But they kept telling us that it was so wonderful, because it was the program they had, that it was so wonderful, and of course there was progress. So our private speech therapist recommended a program called the listening program. That program changed my daughter's life, and I'll tell you about that briefly in just a moment. Hopefully I can do a whole video on that one day. But it's called the listening program. And it's a music-based program with headphones, and you do it every day. So our speech therapist, our private speech therapist, had told us about the listening program. We asked if they could do the listening program. We found out they actually were doing the listening program for students in various parts of our district. But of course, because we were asking for it, we weren't going to get it. And of course, the program that they had in place at the school she was at was the appropriate program, right? So I knew that that wasn't true. So I began asking for the data from the computer program to show me the progress. I didn't want to hear anymore how wonderful she was doing. I wanted the program to tell me how wonderful she was doing. Well, they told me they couldn't get the data off the hard drive. They had tried everything they could, but they couldn't get the data off. And I believe they knew that I knew that it wasn't helping, and that the data was not going to help them. So the excuse was, we can't get it off the hard drive, Mrs. Wallace, sorry. Well, I also knew about the education records laws, and hopefully I'll do a video on that. I have so many videos to do. But I contacted the Family Compliance Office, which is a federal agency that oversees the education records laws. You can contact them if you're having trouble obtaining an education record or getting one amended or that type of thing. So I wrote them a letter and said I was being denied this critical piece of information that would help determine how my daughter was doing. And within a week of contacting them, my school system had found a way to get that data off of that hard drive. Isn't that amazing? They had told me they had exhausted all efforts and there was no way that they could do it. But suddenly, after they have a federal agency calling them and asking them, they were able to get it off the hard drive. And as expected, it did not show progress. It showed that she was stagnant in some areas and she was regressing in others, which wasn't helpful to them. Well, it was the end of the school year. I had a speech therapist who was willing to loan us the listening program, which was amazing. And so we decided to do the listening program over the summer. And within 3 weeks of doing the listening program, we started to notice that our daughter could handle more as far as noise and busy environments, all of those things. By the end of the summer, she was doing really well. She went back to school at the same school, and they began calling me within the first week, asking frequently if they could extend the amount of time that she was mainstreamed each day because she was doing so well. Now, of course, they never would acknowledge that this was because of the listening program. It was all because of their efforts. But the timing and the results that we saw, clearly it was through the listening program. And by the end of the first month of school, my daughter was mainstreamed full time. Now imagine if I had listened to them. She would be mainstreamed 20 minutes a day. She might still be covering her ears, be in a more severe setting. This kid, I'm just going to do a brag moment for a minute. This kid, oh my gosh, she is a 4.0 honor student. She is a state champion with Future Business Leaders of America. She competed nationally with Future Business Leaders of America. I mean, how many people get to do that? She speaks Chinese. She's an editor for the high school newspaper, and she's a Key Club officer for her high school. Does that sound like a kid that we really shouldn't expect much from? Now, did I know in first grade the success that she was going to have? I hoped. I didn't know. I didn't know she was going to excel in all these things, but I knew she was having success right then. And as angry as I was, and as much data as I had that I could have filed a state complaint on what they did, I didn't know that it was going to help. And I didn't see a way that it was going to help my daughter, because my daughter was already doing well. She was already doing well. And while it would have been great to have the state say, you screwed up and blah, 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 that doesn't help relations with the school system. And ultimately, it doesn't provide anything different for my daughter. I just wanted her to be able to move forward and excel. And I didn't want to have tons of fights with the school system because I had turned them into the state. So I chose not to pursue that. And that was really hard because I had a valid complaint. But there was no benefit in me spending the time fighting it, and no benefit to my daughter directly if I filed it. And so I know what happened, they know what happened, and we'll just leave it at that. But with all of her accomplishments, I always go back to that IEP meeting where they said, don't expect much. And I'm so glad we didn't listen to them. You make sure you don't listen to them either, because our children are amazing. Another example that I have is with my other daughter. And she had been homeschooled for a couple of years and went back into the public school system. And our public school system only provides tiered services in language arts and math. Even though IDEA requires them to provide a continuum of services in all academic subjects, they don't provide it for science and history. And so she was put in a regular science class with a teacher who didn't really want to be bothered with the special ed kid. And this is a kid with learning disabilities and attention issues. So she starts not doing well in the class. And she starts reporting to her private psychologist that she's upset, that the teacher is targeting her, that she's failing, that she doesn't understand, that the teacher won't help her. This goes on for several weeks of her reporting this to the psychologist. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, sometimes you have a bad teacher, you have to work through it. Let's find a way to work through it. But the psychologist pulled me in and said, we have a problem. You need to get her out of that class because it is not healthy for her. It is negatively impacting her mental health. So I went and met with the teacher and an administrator at the school and tried to have a pleasant meeting, tried to go in with an open mind of, you're not the bad guy, how can we work together to make this work? But all that I heard was what my daughter needed to do. I never heard anything that the teacher was going to do. And they really actually kind of manipulated me in that meeting, which is strange because I can normally see right through that. So when I left that meeting, I just left confused of like, what are they doing any different for her? So I started asking and nobody could give me an answer. In the meantime, she's going downhill. She's depressed. She's crying every day. She's getting anxious every day. It's horrible. So I start asking for a teacher change. I just say, I've met with the teacher. I've done this. I'd like a teacher change. I spent 2 months asking for a teacher change. 2 months. The paper trail on that is huge. And I would get, oh, we just need to give it a little more time. Oh, she's just adjusting to being back in school. And I would say, no, you can't tell me what the teacher is doing different for her. And she's doing well in all of her other classes. So this isn't an adjusting to being back in school issue. In fact, she had a regular history class too, and the teacher there was working with her and she was doing well. So this also wasn't just she's in a regular classroom and it's too hard. It was a classroom that was not healthy for her. And our private psychologist kept saying, you've got to get her out of there. And they would not change the teacher. So I started checking her out every day during third period. Every day, in the middle of the day, I had to stop whatever I was doing, drive up to the school and check her out. The school would not allow her to stay on campus unless she went to that specific class. They would not allow her to be an aide in another class. They would not allow her to go to the library. They would not allow her to go sit in the counseling center. They would not allow her to do anything. She had to either go to that class or she had to leave the school. And so I checked her out for, I think it was 3 weeks straight. I checked her out all the while I'm screaming, new teacher, new teacher. And I'm getting emails, we're not doing it, we're not doing it, we're not doing it. And I just said, not okay with me. And so I went and contacted the Disability Law Center in our state. Should do a video on that for you. Every state should have a free parent advocate agency that includes attorneys that you can go to for help. And I went to them and I explained what was happening. And they said, you've got to be kidding me. And in the meantime, I wrote our state representative and I said, we've got a special needs child that's being denied an education and is in a hostile environment. Can you help me? And so the state representative contacted the school district, which raised a few eyebrows. And then the Disability Law Center called the school system. And guess what? In 3 days, that classroom was changed. She was put into a different classroom. And I had to go sit in a meeting where we looked at how to adjust her schedule. And I already knew that they had the option of changing her class because I had talked to people internally at the school. They just weren't doing it. And so I had to go sit in a meeting with the administrator who had refused all this time to change her class and hear, oh, we just want what's best for her, blah, blah, blah. Now, could this be considered a denial of FAPE? She missed weeks of school in that class. And she wasn't really learning when she was there. So yeah, you could argue it was a denial of FAPE and that they were purposely denying FAPE to her. But the other thing you could argue is that she was being discriminated against, because I have a hard time believing that they never changed teacher classrooms. And I had the documentation from the psychologist. They had it. They had the opportunity to talk to our psychologist. And it clearly said, this is negatively impacting her mental health, and it is not healthy for her to remain in that classroom. And they ignored it. So I could not only pursue dispute options under IDEA, I could also file a discrimination complaint with the Office of Civil Rights because our daughter was discriminated against. Now, she was put in another classroom with a teacher who is very kind and who is really trying to help her. And although there's still some struggles, there's not the struggles that there were before. They've decreased quite a bit. Again, they should have a continuum, but they don't. So did I pursue it? Well, no, I haven't. Part of why I haven't is because the timing. I'm trying to get my kid through this school year. She's in junior high and she'll be transitioning to high school next year. I'm trying to get her high school schedule set. I'm trying to get her through this school year. And I'm trying not to have so many battles because I have a whole nother battle brewing on another side that I don't have time to tell you about in this video. But I'm trying to pick my battles. Now, with the Office of Civil Rights, I only have 180 days to file a complaint. This all happened I think it was resolved in early November, late October. So I only have till April. So if I want to pursue the discrimination stuff, I've got to pursue that before the 180 days is over. And I may do that. I don't know. As far as the estate complaint with FAPE and, just totally screwing up her education, I have longer to submit that. And I have considered submitting that after everything is set with high school and after she has left this school. Because sometimes when you file a dispute, it just makes life harder for everyone, including your child, and it makes all of the relationships really negative, even if you're in the right. So those are two examples of where this mom has the evidence to go in and just nail them for doing what they're doing. And I need to tell you my FAPE story, but I will tell that. I'm going to do a video in just a minute about determining FAPE, and I will tell that story in there. So you want to make sure to watch that once that goes up. But sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes it's not worth it for your time. And if it's not going to give any benefit to your child, it's not worth it, as crappy as it may be. So I hope that helps you. Every scenario is different, but I wanted you to know that even this mom who's not afraid to file state, federal complaints, due process hearings, and all that stuff, sometimes I have to pick my battles. And those are two battles that I have carefully weighed out in my mind. So I hope that helps. If you've not subscribed, please do so. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.